Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about The Hungering Gods by Alan Bligh and John French. This is an Arkham horror novel. It is the third book in the Lord of Nightmares trilogy. It is from Fantasy Flight. This is a retro review because I believe these are out of print. Not 100% sure. But, kind of old, about 10 or 11 years old. So, if you followed along, the last two reviews that I've posted were for Book 1 and Book 2, which both were basically standalone. The first one, definitely. You could read that, not read anything else. You'd have a satisfying story. The second one introduced all new characters, but was a little bit more open-ended. So not quite-ish standalone, but you don't have to have read the first one. Technically, you wouldn't have to read the third one, but you'd probably wonder, well, you'd have some wonderings. We'll say that. So, The Hungering God brings together characters from the first book, characters from the second book, situations, things from both books are all going to culminate in this. And Alan Bligh wrote the first book, John French wrote the second, and now they've come together for the third. So, this might be difficult to talk about without spoiling the first two, but we had some surviving good guys, some surviving bad guys from the first book. We had the same thing from the second book, and they all sort of come together. Hopefully, all of our good guys are going to come together to work together. The bad guys are not working together. They have their own agendas. So, at this point, Arkham is just a mess after the events of the first two books, but kind of mainly the second one. Since a lot of what happened in the first book was in Kingsport and not in Arkham, but Arkham's tons of shops are closed down, people are leaving, those that can get out or have the energy or the means to get out. The police force is just apathetic and pathetic. There's a federal marshal has come to town. Agent Roland Banks has gone missing, so this marshal, Meeks, I believe, has come to town. He wants to bust up some bootleggers and figure out what happened to Roland Banks. We get a new doctor from Arkham Asylum who gets involved. So we get some new characters as well as the old characters. Again, I don't want to tell you who survived and not spoil things, but so things are coming to a head, and this is the most nightmarish of the three books. It is, like I said, we start and Arkham is just on its last legs. It's just everybody is afraid or going insane. There are just weird things everywhere. Nightmares, violence, murder. And our heroes are trying to just put an end to this. Some are trying to figure out why Arkham is like this. Some have an idea of why it's like this and they're trying to stop it. But from the get-go, we're in the middle of it. We're in the thick of it. Technically, well, I was gonna say technically you could just read this, but that's not true. Since there are elements from the first two books, this does not go into detail about those elements enough that for you to know what's going on if you haven't read the first two. So for this one, you need to read the first two. And this, I'd say I like this as much as the second one. And I liked the second one a little bit more than the first one. I gave the first one 3 stars. I gave the second one 3 stars, but 3.5 would probably be closer. And the same with this one, about 3.5. It's well written. It's just crazy. So much going on, so much insanity, so much horror, violence. It's wild. I dig it. And as far as, since it is an Arkham horror novel, one of the first things I noticed was shops being closed down. And one of the things in Arkham Horror, the game, is when the terror level, I can't remember if that's exactly what it's called, but there's a certain level where when it reaches one point, this one shop shuts down, and then when it reaches, which is a location you could go to, but you can't go there anymore, and then when it reaches the next level, another one shuts down, so you can't go there anymore, and there might be a third one that shuts down when it reaches another point. So I noticed that these places were closing down as the terror in the town rises. So that was a little element from the game. But again, as I mentioned in the other reviews, you don't have to have any knowledge whatsoever of the game. But if you do, you're going to notice things like this. And Roland Banks is a character from the game. And he's not really in here, but they talk, because he's missing, but they talk about him. Arkham Asylum, of course. I think most people know that from Batman, but it's from H.P. Lovecraft, folks. He did it first. So that's in here. That always seems to play a prominent role. Miskatonic University. So this is good. I mean, it takes place between Prohibition, or during Prohibition. So keep that in mind when I say this is good modern H.P. Lovecraft, by which I mean modern writing. Modern authors, not something written back then. So yeah, overall, a decent trilogy. If you're into this kind of stuff, if you find H.P. Lovecraft's prose a little too thick and dry, but you like his concepts, I hate to say ideas, because the man had some horrible ideas when it came to the world and society, but fictionally speaking, if you liked his ideas and things, the whole mythos and all that, then I would recommend picking up this trilogy if you can. I don't know if Aconite, who is the current publisher of Arkham Horror books, excuse me, I don't know if Aconite's going to reprint any of these, or if you'll just have to find them where you can. But yeah, The Hungering God, Alan Bligh, John French, Lord of Nightmares, Book 3, Arkham Horror. I recommend it. 3 stars means I liked it. And again, 3.5 means I liked it half a bit more than the first book. But there you go. I can't think of anything else to tell you about The Hungering God. Really, really tough to talk about a book that's the third in a trilogy, because I don't want to give away anything from the first 2. So that's all I've got to give you at this point in time. Oh, look, my mummy's trying to peek out. All right. I don't have a question for this video. It would just be another H.P. Lovecraft question, and I've already done that once or twice. So, yeah, that's my review. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe. You know all that YouTube stuff. And if you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.